Hey, Steve Zonardi here with Remax Treviso North Realty. Happy Monday morning. Inventory currently right now, 27,884 units. So again, we are climbing. We're up another 1,000 since last week. We're at 27,259. We're at 27,884. Or sorry, it's just up at 600 units rather. So we're at 27 left. So just up 600 units since last week. Not too crazy. Sales have been good. We're at 1,000 sales in the last 7 days, which is great. Again, we're getting a lot of activity. We're selling listings, which are great. Even some of the larger properties, again, but prices obviously in more appropriate to today's climate. We sold one client's home just recently. We started off in the regarding pricing. It's like literally we're going to look at the market, get you a price based on what's currently listed, what currently sold. And then as the time progresses in the market, you got to expect the market's coming down, so you're going to see this prices going down. Because what happens is when you, again, this is very just logic, when you get your neighbor that's selling, he needs to get cashed out a lot faster than you. He sells the property and then ultimately sets a new bar in pricing. So that's going to affect the sale price of your home. And we sold one of our clients' property, good client of ours long term, and not thrilled with the sale price clearly. And again, this is nothing to do with us. It's just I'm so glad that when we go into the presentations, we're upfront and we tell them exactly what's currently happening. So there's no surprise at the end when it does happen. But a house that we sold now for, let's say, 820, 830, at the end of the year, that could be in the high sevens, like 790-ish, right? So again, it may seem low today, but it'll seem that you've made a great deal in, let's say, 3 to 6 months to a year from now for sure, and going forward, to be honest. Last week was the first time that the Canadian government or news media mentioned that Canada is in a recession. So I've been saying this since 2022 to be realistically, because this is where it was and where we're heading. You just got to remember, like, clearly, if you're in a position of power, again, you want to extend it as far as possible, clearly. But at the same time, if you have stuff that you need to sell, like, it's just logic, right? If you're in a place of power and you're going to flip properties or flip whatever assets you have, you're going to need time to do it, especially if they're large portfolios. So you ain't going to release the ring the bells that you're in a recession until everything is done. So there's going to be like a time period. And again, if you look at history, it's always done like this. So since 2022, when we unloaded all our assets, we said, well, the market's gone and it's not coming back. And what scared me the most was again, at that time I was talking about, it was the construction employment, because that's such a robust employer in Canada, where that's it. If construction is the engine of Canada, as you know, we had the most cranes up erected in downtown Toronto and all of the world. So that tells you about how much construction and where the economy was being pulled by. Well, that was obviously a lot of influx of either it was foreign investors, or it was local investors, or it was growth in economy, or growth in population, but it was on fire. And then that ended in 22, basically, right? And just prior to that, we noticed the market that we're going to crash it, and it did, and it's continued going on. And then the Atlas Group, wrote that report just a couple years ago, a year and a half ago, I think it was, where it was just basically saying from a $12 billion industry of construction was rather a $12 billion a year industry, it'll be down to $2.8 billion by 2030, which, if your family, like we're a family of construction workers originally, and even now my family, like my wife's side of the family, ultimately that's going to affect them and their bottom line, clearly, because if you're making 6 figures plus in a job and there's no more work, where are you going to go work now? It's crazy. You're going to have to start thinking as like our ancestors thought about, or my parents, for that as late as my parents were. They left the country to find employment, and that might be a real thing for a lot of people right now, especially in construction industry. You're going to have to look for to migrate outside of the country to find work. We'll see. I know there's a lot of stimulus going on in Canada, and there's a lot of it's tied to government jobs, but at the same time, this is just literally a piece of electrical tape on a stream of like a broken pipe. So I don't know how long that's going to last until it fully implodes. So the only good thing is now, like, again, if you have assets, you need to unload them, to be honest. It's better to be free and clear of a lot of debt right now. Even for us, like, again, we're getting older now. I'm 44 years old. It's like the debt is something you don't want it anymore. It's like the car debt. So thankfully, when we moved down here, we had to pay everything off. So we don't have car debt, which is awesome. We haven't had a car payment since we left Canada, to be honest. So that's fantastic. Everything's paid in cash. And the way I look at it now, like usually I would switch my car every 3 to 4 years, let's just say in a lease. So you just flip it and just change it and you write it off and the whole thing. But it's not worth it anymore, to be honest. It's the pain of like that monthly payment. Just better off buying properties, you know, and that's what we're looking at now. Like every year we're buying properties. So can you get a Ferrari? Yeah. Is it going to be more beneficial than a rental property that's going to pay you to own it in 3 different ways: through appreciation, through mortgage pay down by the tenants, and also passive income? Is that Ferrari or whatever luxury vehicles, that car that you desire? And I'm a huge car buff. Like, if there's anything more that I love than real estate is cars. Like, put me in a mechanic shop, let me build stuff. I love it. But at the same time, it doesn't make any sense to have any money into luxury vehicles if it's not going to pay you back, unless it's some sort of collector's and you can flip it in 3 to 5 years. I get it, but it doesn't make any sense to go on debt regarding like luxury vehicles, to be honest. It's just it is what it is. As we're getting older, it just makes sense. So even like our Mercedes now, my daily drivers an E-Class, we bought it when we got down here. It's got like, I think it's 80,000 miles, which probably equates to about 130, 135,000 kilometers. And you know, back in the day, you wouldn't drive more than, let's say, 30 or 40,000 miles. So let's say like 80,000 kilometers you have to give the car back. But now it doesn't make any sense. We're just going to keep the cars going. Even my wife's Infiniti, there's no point. It's, again, paid for, and that sucker's got 125,000 miles on it, which is like 200K. But the truck drives amazing. Like, who gives a shit? Especially being out here in Florida, we don't have to deal with the the salt in the roads and stuff like that. The cars will maintain longer. But long story short is like to eliminate as much debt as possible, because we don't know where the world's going, even in the US or in Canada. And I think it's time to be as light as possible, kind of go back to like our parents' generation, where they kind of saved everything, and making sure that you have money set aside for retirement. Even for us right now, we are allocating 10 to 15% of our income into the S&P 500 here in the States. So basically it's a Vanguard stock, and that kind of diversifies, but that's going to be between a 10 to 12% return per annum. That's just historically what it does, because it's not biased to one industry. It kind of spreads it, so it makes sure that it accumulates 10 to 12 points. But if you kind of look at that with a $333,000 investment paid over 20 years, let's just say, like we install like maybe $1,500 a month or $2,000 a month, something like that, and then within 20 years, it equates to about $333,000. And with the $333,000 invested, like over time, the compound of interest and the 10 to 12%, obviously compound interest, it's $1 million portfolio. And ultimately, if it's going to pay you 10 to 12 points, hopefully, we don't know with the stock market and everything at the end, if it's still going to be, or we don't know, it's like so volatile, the world. But if that's going to pay you $10 to $12,000, you would still hold your $1 million in the Vanguard and take out your 10 to 12 or $100,000 a year, basically on interest earned. So that can, it's not going to give you a luxurious life, but it's $10,000 to $12,000 a month, which is passive income. So ultimately, it's something. So we just started this now, and we're also in the stock market as well. We're betting on individual stocks, and it's kind of nice to be out here too, because you have full access to a Charles Schwab account, so we can buy stuff on the whim and not invest like huge sums of money. So we can spread $10,000 between 20 stocks, and you have $800 of this one, $1,000 of that one, $2,000 of this one. So it's basically, if one drops out, it's not going to break the bank. So it's basically having a whole portfolio of different picks that you think that's going to take off. Clearly, if you ever listen to the presidential talks, you get an idea of what's going to be coming down the pipe. So you just kind of invest in what they're talking about, and you see an increase in value for sure. But that's pretty much it for today, guys. Have a great day. Bye-bye.